again I catch myself complaining about just pointless, inconsequential bullshit that doesn't matter at all, and it hits me that that's because of how comfortable my life is now. Hey everybody, how's it going? I'm Izzy, and this is the Izzy Nobre Show. In case my accent didn't give it away, I was actually not born in Canada. I've mentioned this before. I was actually born and raised in Brazil, where life was, to put it mildly, a little bit more difficult. And whenever I try to explain to my Canadian friends that whatever they think is like the end of the world as they know it, just like a horrible situation, whenever I try to have them appreciate that, you know what? Things could actually be a lot worse. And because of that, I decided to make this video. Now, of course, I will not be able to talk about the entire Brazilian experience. This is a short video after all. And before you say anything, I do realize that most of these things I'm about to mention are not exclusive to Brazil. The world traveled among you are gonna be like,
well, Izzy, I was in Thailand and they do that there too.
I know, okay, I know, but I can only speak of the country where I was born and where I lived for the majority of my life. So these are the reasons why living in Brazil is, well, let's say, not for beginners. How about death kites? Okay, so here you just go to Walmart, you buy a kite, and then you go fly it in the park and you're just having some fun, and that's the end of the day. That's how the story ends. I went to Walmart, picked up a kite, I flew it, I went back home, and then I never did it again, because when you think about it, flying a kite is actually pretty boring. Well, not in Brazil. What Brazilians do is that we grind glass and glue into a mixture called cerol, and then we painstakingly apply that onto the kite line, and then we fight each other. That's the whole point. We're trying to cut each other's kites and occasionally some necks, because what happens is that people will tie these lines across light posts. Horrible idea, I know. And every now and again we'd read on the news about how some bike rider got beheaded, basically. And you know what? This is some horrific shit. If you type cerol into Google Images, you know what? I can't even show that here on YouTube. Now, bike riders had to, and this is true, bike riders had to install metal rods in front of their bikes like this in order to keep their necks safe. Can you imagine being a Brazilian mom? You come home and you have like your 8 set of like really fancy glassware, but there's one missing. And then you go, hey Izzy, where's the 8th glass here? There's one missing. And it's like, well, it's in Pedro's eyeballs. We were flying kites earlier. That is something that actually makes sense. Like that story, that progression makes sense in Brazil. That could happen. Now, kids are resourceful, if nothing else, and they started to realize they could use copper wire instead of kite line, because you can't cut copper wire with cerol. Now, here's the problem. Copper wire, very good at conducting electricity. So every now and again, some kid would hit a power line while flying kites with copper wires, and you can do the math. I remember in the 90s, the government actually had to do a whole like campaign, like to bring awareness to the issue of flying kites with copper wires in lieu of just the string that we used to use. How about electric showers? To you, electric shower might just sound like a crazy oxymoron, like these two things should not ever be together. Well, guess what? Brazil's a huge country. Now, I know you've come to associate Brazil with like warmth, as well as soccer, beautiful women, waxing. A lot of people don't associate Brazil with cold, but in the southern regions, it gets pretty cold. And not only that, but houses are not built the way they are built here. They don't have a whole lot of insulation. We don't have a system to deliver heated water. So people have to make do with what they have. And what they have is this. This is an electric shower. So what you do is you turn that shit on, like for real. Just imagine this for a second. The shower is running. You go, oh, a little bit cold. A little bit cold. Let's turn this thing on, and then you flick that little switch to get the hot water. There's an element in there, and the water goes through it, heats it up like a freaking tea kettle. Now in my house, this is not even a joke. This is not a bit. When I flick that switch, you would see sparks like crazy. How about crime? Okay, so obviously these developing countries. When I was a kid, we used to call them third world countries. That sounds kind of harsh now. So developing nations is a bit nicer. Of course, there's a lot of crime in developing nations. That's nothing new to you. I bet you didn't know how brazen these guys are though, because they will rob and knife people right there in the middle of the street in front of everybody, like they don't give a fuck. When you leave the house in Brazil, you have to take into consideration, this is something that never even crosses my mind here in Canada. You have to take into consideration that you should not be checking your phone too much. You should not walk around while texting maybe. You know, somebody can come and snatch your phone or your wallet or who knows. If it was just a run-of-the-mill, somebody snatches something out of your hands and runs away, that'd be fine. But you know what? People in Brazil are taking it to the next level. There's a whole epidemic of stabbings. Stabbings! People are just waiting for the bus after work, minding their own business, then out of nowhere, BAM! You have a knife in your liver. In fact, all the crime that goes on in these big cities in Brazil is just so predictable that the news just sets up cameras and be like, just keep it rolling there. Give it 20 minutes. We're gonna catch enough for the 9 o'clock news segment. The stabbings in some places in Rio right now might even be more punctual than the bus this guy was waiting for. Oh, hey, that's the 5 o'clock stabbing. This is just for perspective. Next time you're complaining about something that happened in your life, just remember, it could be way worse. It could be that you have to have a closed casket because Joãozinho wanted to snatch little Pedro's fucking kite. Anyway, that's all the time I have for today. Make sure to like and subscribe to the video here. There's videos every week. That's about right. Let me check here. Yeah, that's about right. Every week. And that's everything. I'm Izzy and I'm done. The Brazilians are gonna be pretty pissed about this video, I can already tell.